73, still here, still thinking too much, still wishing I'd figured things out sooner. Before I get into what I want to say today, I'm asking you genuinely to stay with me through this one. What I'm about to share isn't comfortable. It's not one of those neat little life lessons you can put on a poster. But it changed the entire second half of my life, and I think it could matter to you too. So, let me take you back to 1991. I was 38. I had a decent job managing a hardware distribution warehouse outside of Philadelphia. Nothing glamorous. I drove a used Chevy, packed my lunch most days, coached my son's little league team on Saturdays. Normal life. Ordinary in every way. And I was miserable. Not in the way people usually talk about misery. I wasn't depressed, not clinically. I wasn't drinking too much or falling apart. From the outside, everything looked fine. But inside, there was this feeling I couldn't name. Like I was watching my own life through a window. Like the days were just passing through me and I wasn't absorbing any of them. I remember one Tuesday, sitting in my truck in the warehouse parking lot after everyone had gone home. Engine off. Just sitting there, staring at the dashboard. And I thought, very clearly, if the next 30 years feel like the last 10, I don't know how I'm going to do this. That scared me. Not because I wanted to hurt myself, nothing like that, but because I realized I had built a life that looked right and felt completely hollow. Now, most people, when they hit that wall, they do one of two things. They blow everything up. Quit the job, leave the marriage, buy something stupid, chase some fantasy, or they push the feeling down and keep going, hoping it fades. I did neither. And what happened instead is the thing I want to talk about today. A few days after that parking lot moment, I ran into a guy named Dwight Hobson at a gas station. Dwight was maybe 15 years older than me, retired school teacher. We knew each other from the neighborhood but weren't close. Just the kind of people who wave when they're mowing the lawn. He looked at me that day and said, "You look like a man carrying a suitcase he forgot he picked up." I almost laughed it off, but something about the way he said it stopped me. I asked him what he meant, and instead of explaining, he invited me to go fishing that Saturday. I didn't fish, hadn't held a rod since I was 12, but I said yes, mostly because I didn't have a reason to say no. That Saturday, 5 a.m., I'm standing on the bank of Ridley Creek with this man I barely know, both of us holding coffee in paper cups. And Dwight starts talking. Not about fishing, about himself. About how he'd spent 26 years teaching 8th grade history and woke up one morning at 54, realizing he had no idea who he was outside of that classroom. He told me when he retired, he expected to feel free. Instead, he felt erased. His whole identity had been wrapped up in being Mr. Hobson, the history teacher. Without that, he didn't know what to do with his hands, his hours, his mind. He spent almost 2 full years after retirement sitting in his living room, angry. Not at anyone specifically, just angry. At himself mostly, for not building anything in his life besides a career. No real hobbies, no deep friendships outside of work, no sense of who he was when no one needed him to be anything. I stood there by that creek, and I felt something crack open, because Dwight was describing my future. I was 38, and I was already living his regret in slow motion. We fished every Saturday after that. Mostly we didn't catch a thing. But over those mornings, Dwight taught me something no book or seminar ever came close to. He taught me the difference between filling your life and building it. I had filled my life. Work, obligations, routines, responsibilities. Every hour accounted for, every day productive. But none of it was mine. None of it came from curiosity or desire. I was servicing a life, not living one. Dwight asked me once what I did just for the pleasure of doing it. Not for money, not for anyone else, not out of duty, just for me. I couldn't answer. And 73 years old, I can tell you that moment haunts me more than almost anything. Because how do you get to 38 and not have a single thing that's purely yours? It happens because we're taught that adulthood means service. You serve your family, your employer, your community. And all of that is necessary. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that you can't pour from a bone-dry well. I see it everywhere still. People running on fumes, wondering why they feel empty. And when someone suggests they take time for themselves, they feel guilty. Like wanting something of your own is selfish. It's not selfish, it's survival. After those conversations with Dwight, I made changes, small ones. I signed up for a woodworking class at the community college, Tuesday nights, 7 to 9. I was terrible. My first birdhouse looked like something a raccoon built during an earthquake. The instructor, Gail, took one look at it and said, "Well, the birds won't be bored." But for those 2 hours, every Tuesday, I wasn't Peter the warehouse manager, the husband, the father, the guy who needs to fix the gutter. I was just a man learning to shape a piece of wood. And that small, useless thing filled something in me that decades of responsible living hadn't touched. I started reading novels again, picked up East of Eden at a yard sale for 50 cents, lying in bed, turning pages, completely lost in someone else's world, and thinking, when did I stop doing this? The answer was around 25, when I decided fiction was a luxury I couldn't afford. What a stupid thing to believe. I started walking, too. No destination, no pedometer. I noticed things I'd driven past 1,000 times. A stone church on Briar Lane with a hidden garden. A creek 2 blocks from my house I never knew existed. An old man who sat on his porch whittling. A Korean War veteran named Lou with stories that would make your jaw drop. I sat with Lou on that porch for 3 summers until he passed in '94. I still think about him when I smell fresh-cut pine. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, "That's nice, Peter, but I don't have time for hobbies. I've got bills, kids, problems you don't know about." You're right, I don't know your problems, but the excuse of not having time is almost never the real issue. The real issue is that we've merged with our responsibilities so completely that stepping outside of them feels like abandoning something. It doesn't. Your family doesn't need a martyr. They need you to be a whole person. Your kids don't benefit from a parent who sacrificed every piece of their identity. They benefit from a parent who is alive inside, who has things they care about, who can show them what it actually looks like to enjoy being here. Dwight told me something I've carried for 32 years. He said, "The worst thing you can do to the people you love is disappear while you're still standing in front of them." And that's exactly what happens when you hollow yourself out in the name of duty. You don't leave, you just become a shell. You're at the dinner table, but nobody's home. The woodworking led to other things. I joined a book club at the library, showed up, and realized I was the only man among 11 women, and they were absolutely delighted, and I had the best Thursday evenings of my life arguing about whether Atticus Finch was actually a good father. I started volunteering at a food bank because Dwight's wife, Marion, needed someone to drive the van. That led to friendships I still have, real ones, the kind where you call someone at 2 a.m. because you can't sleep and they'll actually pick up. Nothing about my circumstances changed. Same job, same house, same commute, same paycheck. But I was different inside. I started looking forward to things again. Not big things, just Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday mornings. That hollow feeling hadn't vanished completely. Maybe it never does entirely, but it had shrunk enough that I could breathe again. Because I'd started to exist as a person again, not just as a function performing tasks for other people. If something in this is hitting close, try one thing. Not tomorrow, today. Think of something you used to enjoy that had nothing to do with your job or your role in someone else's life. Maybe you painted, played guitar, liked bird watching, or writing bad poetry. Whatever it was, do it this week. Even 20 minutes. Don't do it well. Don't do it for anyone. Do it because the part of you that lit up when you did it is still in there. Dusty, maybe. Quiet, probably, but still alive. Dwight passed in 2012, 79, died in his garden, which, if you knew him, was exactly how he'd have wanted to go. At his funeral, 14 people stood up to speak. Not one of them mentioned his career. They talked about who he was. The man who showed up with soup when you were sick. The man who remembered your dog's name. The man who'd sit with you in your worst moments and say absolutely nothing, because he knew sometimes that's everything. That's the life I want. That's what I'm still chasing at 73. Not a resume, not accomplishments. A life made of real presence and genuine connection. I wasted years being a function. Don't waste yours. This channel is where people who've lived a little, or a lot, share what they've figured out the hard way. If that means something to you, subscribe, turn on notifications, because there's more coming. Leave me a comment, tell me what's that one thing you stopped doing that you want to pick back up. And give this a like, it helps more than you'd think.